Hello my fellow pilots and welcome again to another episode of Star Citizen FM, episode 40. Star Citizen FM is your fan community source for anything related to Star Citizen, community events, or anything else in the verse. Star Citizen FM is hosted by yours truly, Dr. Hawk. So let's move on to this week's events. Starting off, I'd like to actually start off with a quick thank you. Star Citizen FM has been running for about 40 episodes now, give or take a few hiccups and special episodes here or there. Your guys' continued support is very welcomed. It's encouraging. It's nice to wake up to and see happy messages and mails, emails, etc. So your support means a lot to me, guys. Thank you very much for supporting Star Citizen FM and watching for the past 7-8 months. And hopefully, let's see if we can do a whole year of Star Citizen FM. I started this in January. It is now October. So, October, November, December. Yeah, actually, I've been doing this for 9 months now. So, 3 more months, and we can officially celebrate 1 year of Star Citizen FM. I have some things I'm planning already. Maybe I might try to do something. It's too bad I can't time it in theme for CitizenCon, which I will be going into here in a few minutes. But we'll see where we go. Maybe I'll just shave my head or try to buy somebody some pledge package. We'll see how far we go. So, starting off with our news, I need to address a concern. Trademark. Remember, we have to address every concern with a trademark. So apparently, I made another mistake. Or a juicy steak, whichever one you want to address. 20 million is now the old number, and 23 million is the new number. Holy... Despite trying to celebrate a big, or at least what I thought was a big number and a significant number, a lot of you seem to think that that wasn't the case. Oops. I don't really have much to add to this. 20 million is a big achievement, regardless if they were not fully funded or not, and if I said they were, which apologies, judging by what the little ticker here says, we'll be at 23 million soon enough. I think it's still a milestone that we should celebrate. Nobody else has, as far as I'm concerned, raised that kind of money with a Kickstarter or public pledge drive, so, come on. Let's not downplay the significance of what CIG and us as a community have done. In the meantime, I'll try to make sure my facts are more factual, and you guys will be receiving less juicy steaks. Yep, see? Your fault. You guys miss out on steaks because of this. I hope you're proud of yourself. One other announcement I wanted to make for Star Citizen FM. Some people have been addressing the issue I'm having currently with my mic, which is that. I do not have a pop filter on this mic. In fact, it is a Sennheiser PC360. For $300, I thought it would have had a pop filter, but it doesn't. So, what I'm going to do next time, since I currently don't have one with me and I don't need them, I'm going to take an idea that a fellow chat roll-in suggested. And hopefully, we will reduce the popping noises that you guys hear in the future, because I like chuckling and then every now and then, but it's not cool that every time I chuckle I blow out your guys' eardrums. So, in the future, a coat hanger and a pantyhose will have to suffice until I can afford something really nice and fancy, and given how much I'm paid being a janitor, that might have to wait. So our first major headline is actually the CitizenCon 2013 details, as well as the mobiGlas concept. So, for those of you that weren't aware, on October 10th, that will mark 1 year since Chris Roberts has announced Star Citizen. That's pretty big if you ask me. You'll be able to tune in on October 10th at 6:30 CST time if you'd like to check out the live stream and actually, come celebrate and have some fun. They'll be showing off some of the progress that they've made, celebrating, going over what they have planned, etc. So if you'd like to check out CitizenCon, and come on, you should. This is CitizenCon. You're a citizen. I'm a citizen. Let's do our part. Check out CitizenCon on October 10th, 6:30 p.m. CST. There will also be the photo contest. If you remember when I announced that, they'll be announcing the winners, as well as a special run-through of some of the limited time offers that have been offered before, and maybe some new ones. I don't know. This is me just speaking, so don't shoot the messenger. As well, with this announcement, we also get to check out the first pictures of the Moby-Glass concepts. The Moby-Glass concepts above, which some of the pictures you should see, are a small taste of what we'll be fleshing out during a series of major planning sessions. If you're familiar with the Star Citizen fiction we've already published, you'll probably remember a character using their Moby-Glass, a portable computer interface. Now, a challenge for our designers is coming up with how the player will use the Moby-Glass. It's like building an entirely new computer system. These storyboards created by the team at Behavior show our current progress. Next week, the team will be talking about everything from how you'll use your Moby-Glass to how you'll command capital ships. I get a big kick out of this Moby-Glass because, assuming, and I can only see it working in real time, that they do it, this is almost Dead Space-like with the rig. How when the player and the player character Isaac Clarke would turn on his rig, the holograph interface would show up, everything would continue about in real time, and yet you still had your pause menu, although it wasn't really a pause menu, inventory, weapons, etc. And look at the pictures here, you can buy and sell stuff, you can check out your loadouts, you can analyze, which this would be cool, looking over your ship to find damage. Because what if something got damaged internally that you didn't see, and you just took off all happy as a pig and shit, and whoops, there goes my engine because, an intercooler busted or something. So if they flesh that out, I think Moby-Glass will be quite an interesting little concept, and even there's an interview coming up that you guys should see in the title with a particular person. It would be cool if we could integrate Moby-Glass with fan-made applications such as the Stanton Space BArn, or Blue Streak's Beyond the Horizon Radio, or maybe even Star Citizen FM. If you want to check out the Moby-Glass or any details on CitizenCon, you can do so at robertspaceindustries.com in the com link, or alternatively you can click in the description below, or you can check the forums. There's also a few other press conferences and roundups that you can find in the com link as well as an interview with David Ladyman, which I will say, Mr. Ladyman, that is quite the badass last name. You can check out the interview with him as well, and you can also find it on the latest episode of Wingman's Hangar. I know I don't, talk about Wingman that much anymore, as I try to keep his show, and my show, but as always, go check out Wingman's Hangar. It's always fun to watch him, and there's always some tidbits that happen in that show that will not happen in Star Citizen FM. So be sure to check out Wingman's Hangar as well. The next and final highlight that I'd like to go over is the Galactic Guide for the Hangar Manufacturers. Now, as most of you should already know, we have had access to our hangar module for quite a while now. Enough to, wander around, have some fun, manage to stick a Hornet engine onto a 350R, because why not? But we haven't really been able to customize or at least choose our hangars. That's something that's in the works, and in the meantime, you can look forward to finding out the different types of hangars that you could potentially purchase from, as well as see around the galaxy. This little article I'll do a quick read through before moving on to the interview, and hopefully it'll give you guys some insight into the hangar manufacturers. In the generations since Roberts Space Industries institutionalized personal space travel, countless supporting industries have sprung up to improve the lives of interstellar pilots. From shield manufacturers to deep space repair services to refueling stations orbiting distant stars, the infrastructure which has grown up to support civilian space travel has become ubiquitous. This development has no better case study than the rise of modular, user-configurable ship hangars. The system of self-maintained hangars arose out of the very simple logic that if you have a spacecraft, you also need a place to put it. With the massive increase in individually owned civilian spacecraft and the resulting decline in government-regulated space travel lines, the model for ship housing quickly transitioned. Many once thriving spaceports were parceled out for individual sale, with the hangars that once maintained 1,000-person transports divided into dozens of makeshift spacecraft compartments and made available to the highest bidders. The formalized hangar industry soon followed, with investors purchasing massive tracts of land wherever possible to erect garaging space. On some rapidly developing worlds, territory claims around landing points have become so expensive or contested that urban construction often takes place outside a 100-kilometer ring of future hangars. On some worlds, hangars are constructed deep into the ground, or straight up in massive skyscrapers, anything to provide ship owners the peace of mind that comes with a permanent home for their craft. In recent years, 3 hangar designers, or manufacturers, have come to define the industry as a whole, with their basic appearances being a familiar sight across the galaxy. The first is Selfland, incorporated by Peter Weatherman, a wealthy guild-licensed shipper who made his living on the active space lanes. Selfland hangars have become an ever-present reminder of just how easy it is for humans to travel the stars. The corporation was founded on the philosophy that temporary hangars available to transitioning pilots were inaccessible, inaffordable, and most importantly, unsafe. Weatherman began developing the company after he was jumped by a gang of dock thugs who stripped his Starfarer to the hull plating. Starting in the mid-29th century, Selfland began a franchising-based expansion across the human-inhabited galaxy. The first Selfland was established by Weatherman on Van in the Croshaw system. Seemingly overnight, the company has expanded to a dozen worlds, and then 100. Today, the Selfland Corporation boasts that they maintain at least one facility on every world in the UEE, with some planets, Terra chief among them, having as many as 60 different complexes. Selfland hangars are fully modular and environmentally controlled, prefabricated out of the most available common metals. They aren't necessarily attractive to look at, but they are comfortable and familiar. The Selfland experience on a colony world near Vandal Space is exactly the same that is available to a pilot berthing on Earth. The Selfland Corporation takes care of everything, from structure design to land titles. Because of their design, the same hangar type can be used in configurations ranging from skyscraping heights to the breadth of a plane to stacked underground or to honeycombed deep within asteroids. The next up is AeroView Hangars, proudly proclaiming to be the oldest established hangar manufacturer in human space. Their design and construction of hangars goes back to more than 300 years. In the 27th century, Arthur Nasir formed the company around a rigid code of business ethics, focusing largely on design quality, a dedication to ergonomics, and an extreme respect for client confidentiality. AeroView also famously deserves the right to refuse service to any non-citizens. While hangar design and housing is tangential, at best, to piracy, Nasir's outspoken contempt for those who fly outside the law led to the company's code. When AeroView was purchased by Shubin Interstellar, the conditions of the sale insisted that the code must be adhered to in perpetuity. I'm learning a lot of English, forgive me, citizens. While the code remains intact, AeroView's original business model does not. The AeroView hangars of the 28th century were palatial affairs built on a case-by-case basis to the specifications of a social elite capable of owning their own spacecraft. In recent years, AeroView has adapted the tactics to follow in Selfland's footsteps, although they would never admit it. Instead of custom building high-class hangars on an individual basis, they now produce a line of modular business hangars, priced to sell to successful businessmen and other executive-level clients. Unlike other modular hangar companies, AeroView does not lease the property on which their hangars are established. This is left up to the individual consumer to determine. The AeroView hangar can be erected at any point in the UEE given 48 hours notification, 24 hours for a steep rush construction fee. Of special note, AeroView has found particular success in developing hangars for larger scale craft or craft that require additional space for support equipment. Pilots of ships like Freelancers with multiple crew housings or Hornets with weapons racks and need for more intensive hull repair facilities generally find it more cost effective to purchase a single AeroView hangar rather than multiple Selflands. If I can make an editorial, this is actually quite interesting, as now this might show that hangar choice in the future could determine as well as affect gameplay in the future of Star Citizen. This could affect pilots in both good or bad ways, with people who maybe play the game on a lighter aspect purchasing a Selfland, and people who are, high-end into their Hornet having one specific tailor-made AeroView. The last up is Revel in York. When Revel and York Engineering Corporation set about designing its first hangar some 30 years ago, the reaction was laughter. The company, known best for its excessively expensive and visibly uncomfortable furniture, was entering a field dominated by aerospace giants. The laughter ceased quickly as the Revel and York deluxe line of hangars became the de facto spacecraft hangar of the rich and powerful. The company's cavernous hangars, established on ideal landing spaces and top-dollar land agreements, earned their standing and reputation for excellence and quality. Revel and York designers worked directly with pilots to develop a hangar experience like no other. R&Y is the only company currently constructing modular hangars designed to support merchantman-class spacecraft like the Constellation and the Caterpillar, locking them in a valuable if small segment of the population. Their hangar designs have earned their reputation, between the interlocking catwalks with motorized lifts to allow pilots to supervise their craft from overhead, to specially designed Grey Cat PV buggies for transporting ship crews from module to module. Everything is designed for not just the elite pilot's usability, but also their overall enjoyment. Self-landing competitors make a place for you to put your ship. Revel and York makes a place for you to take it in. So that about wraps it up for today's episode. There's a few more events that you can easily find in the comm link, though for the interest of time, I'm going to fast forward to an interview I managed to secure with a community member. So let us move on to that interview. So, as usual, ladies and gentlemen, I like to try to provide you guys with interesting interviews and focus on the community. And today I've managed to track down a community member who I think has gone above and beyond in creating a very unique tool for the Star Citizen universe. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Agathorn.
Hey there.
Hey, how you doing there, Agathorn? Thanks for taking the time to, come and chat to the Dr. Hawk.
Not a problem. I think it's great.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself for those that aren't aware, because you've been spotlighted by the devs themselves, and you've started developing a unique tool that, pardon me to anyone that might get a little upset if I mention its name, Eve Fitting Tool. You've made a version for Star Citizens.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't think of Eve Fitting Tool when I made the website, but then people started mentioning it, and I definitely see the correlation. But the idea was just to build something, ship mod is a huge part of Star Citizen, at least in my opinion, and the ability to mess around with that when you're, at work or other times not able to be playing the game, I thought would be a great feature. And so I've been putting that together. It took me about 3 or 4 months to get the base stuff put together, and I was just blown away when I was spotlighted by CIG. I was just sitting there working and refreshing the website as I like to do, and was completely just shocked when I saw it. It was awesome.
So tell us a little about yourself first. I should have probably even gone through the introductions. So who is this magical man who's created this awesome piece of equipment?
Well, I actually work in the visual effects industry doing what's called a technical director, which is basically a lot of programming to work with different third-party tools to make shows that can go through from one end to the other. So I have experience in a programming background, but not that much in the way of web design before. So when I sat down to do this, I had to learn the web side of things. But that coupled with my past experience is what really enabled me to go forward.
So are you doing this not so much even out of love for the game as also a learning experience? Because on one hand you're learning and developing your skill set, and the other you're making something for a game that you probably love and will love for years to come.
Oh yeah, I'm afraid I'm probably gonna never join the real world again once the game comes out. But
let's hope you're not married. Honey, you coming to bed in 6 hours or 60? I haven't decided. So, walk us through the Stanton Space BArn. That's what why even that name?
Why that name? Well, I mean, there's a little bit of so there's 2 parts to it. There's of course the Stanton system, which we know from that we know is going to be in the game. For some reason, that name of that specific system stuck in my head. And the other half of it was actually a bit of an homage to a Star Wars Expanded Universe reference that probably nobody would notice, but there's a series of books about Han Solo's days shortly before the first movies, and one of the locales in there is a place called Shug's Space BArn, where all the smugglers would go together and meet up to tune their ships and mess around and stuff like that. And the name just happened, and I'm like, hey, I love this name. Let's go with it. It was available on the limited selection of URLs that are still available, and so I went with it.
Well, there you go. So, what do you plan to achieve in the next little while with the Stanton Space BArn? Like, what's the current goals right now that you'd say you'd try to get?
Well, my focus right now is to get what I call the Phase 2 part finished, and so that can roll out officially. Right now, the website's kind of fragmented. There's the original website that I built, which I started building way back April, May, long before the Hangar even came out. And a lot of that was built on, first off, with data that was just pulled from brochures and whatnot and typed in by hand, and also built on suppositions that ended up being wrong. Like, this was not how the game actually works, but I thought it did at the time. So while that was like the initial prototype and it works well, people love it, it's definitely not the thing to go forward with. So I've been building Phase 2 on the backside. It's actually publicly available as a beta that ties into different pieces of live data and actually works the way the game's supposed to work. So my goal right now is to get that finished and rolled out so I can get rid of the old prototype that doesn't really work as well anymore.
Okay, so here's another big thing that might help for some of the viewers. What is the Stanton Space BArn? Because we've probably been throwing around fitting tool and words like that, and just thinking now, I'm thinking somebody probably has not even tried that. So walk us through what you actually made for the community.
Well, the basic idea behind the Stanton Space BArn, or just the barn if you want to be sure, is it's a way to take a ship online, go into a website, pick a ship, and just mess around with how you mount the ship, what weapons you put into what hard points, what items you mount, and it even it's going to have more, but at the moment it has some very basic information in there for things like tracking how much power you would be using on certain weapons. There's a live stat system in Phase 2 that lets you set which weapons are active, which weapons are idle, which weapons are actually actively shooting, and it'll actually tell you how much power you're using, how much heat you would be using. So it's just a way basically to do as much of the ship modding you would do in the game, as possible on the website. It lets you play around with different builds, and the big thing is when you're done, if you like something, you can share that variant with somebody else or with everyone, and we can all basically see what we're all doing and grow and learn from everybody.
I'm gonna probably get slagged for this, but excuse me. I believe Call of Duty has actually, and Battlefield and a lot of the other big games have done this too, made online class loadout configurators where you can change it even when you're not at the game, and even other more, I guess skilled games. Sorry. Mech Warrior, Dark Souls, there's online character planners now. You're trying to provide this for Star Citizen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon, definitely. Even most MMOs, standard MMOs, have some sort of build, doing your builds online and whatnot. I've always found those things to be two things. One, just a way to stay active and interacting with the game when I really shouldn't be, such as at work. And also sometimes just a great way for the community to learn from each other. And I mean, you can end up with builds that nobody would have thought of on their own, but when you start combining and pooling all that knowledge, some amazing things can come out of it.
Well, that's pretty much the point. Like I remember when Dark Souls first came out, nobody understood what the hell was going on. Even the people that played Demon Souls would be like, "Wow, they kind of just flipped the rug out from under us." So this year was kind of when somebody came out with a character planner, streamlined a lot of confusion, because people will be like, "Oh no, you should do this," or "No, you should do that." And one thing I noticed about games that don't have this kind of feature is that you get a lot of forum posting of people yelling and screaming, "Oh no, mine is better, his is better, mine's longer, his is fatter," whatever. As we're here, I played with it a little bit. I see raw numbers right away. I know, okay, well this thing will have a high fire rate, but I probably won't be taking much hits, so it'll probably be a good strafing, setup or something. So, here's the one thing I have been curious though. How have you been getting these numbers? Have you been pulling it from the game itself, or have you been talking to the developers?
I haven't been talking to the developers. That would be great at some point. I've actually have a couple threads or a couple posts on some of the Ask a Developer threads trying to get information on how some of the pieces work, because I haven't been able to figure them out. But unfortunately, those have not been answered yet. But what I am doing for the actual numbers is I am pulling the data. Well, let's be clear. There's as I said before, there's the original site, and then there's the Phase 2 side of things. The Phase 2 side of things is pulling data directly from the Hangar game data files. I've written a custom program that basically opens up all the XML files that configure all the items and ships in the game, pulls that data out, puts it into a format that works for me, and then pushes it into my database online. So I literally, a new patch comes out, I just run a quick program, upload it to my website, run another program on my website that pulls it in, and boom, I have all the latest data from that patch available. So everything you see on the Phase 2 site and everything you see on the Databanks site, which is basically an item browser or a ship browser, all that is coming from the actual game data files. Everything in there is 100% accurate, including all the mistakes and misspellings that CIG has in there right now, because it's just not done yet. And the only thing that would be wrong is if in some cases a bug where I'm omitting some information, which does happen occasionally. But everything that's there is 100% accurate, not copy-pasted, pulled directly from the game files.
Okay, so here's another question. I know CIG is quite, highly focused on keeping things secret, and I don't, and rightly so. Like they show us a lot more than anybody has. But in terms of like Squadron 42 story, game details and the big picture that would ruin it if we found out what the story's about or what we'll be getting, etc. Are you worried that the Stanton Space BArn would potentially ruin certain aspects? Because I remember even in Dark Souls, before everyone found out that the pendant was a huge prank by the director himself. I won't go into that story, just there was a lot of fun in that. Are you worried that if you're pulling the actual XML list and everything, that maybe some super secret item that they want to keep hidden or whatever would get automatically pulled into your database and people will be going, oh hey, well what's this Mark 10 laser here? I'm making this up, by the way, but are you worried about potentially ruining juicy spoilers or Easter eggs?
I guess it's theoretically possible. One thing we've all seen is how open CIG is, at least so far, with the stuff that people have done. I mean, they've not only have they turned a blind eye towards all the modders grabbing everything, ripping them open and messing with them, but they've actually spotlighted them. So I don't think there's necessarily a huge cause for concern there. Nothing, for example, none of the unannounced vehicles or items are actually even in the game data at this point. So in theory, all I have to do is just not include the information. The only caveat there is that I did show on my website that the Aurora LN is actually in the game data files and is available for people to look at on my website. But I think anything that's not ready, they're not going to bother putting in there. And once the game is complete and finished and out there, as much as they are active with the modding community, I don't think there's going to be any issue there, because they want people digging around and messing with it and changing it. So I doubt they're going to throw anything in there that they would not want made public, because it will become public, whether I do it or somebody else does it.
Fair enough. I thought I'd just ask and see what your stance was on that. As you've said, they're very open. I'm not too worried about it, given the fact that, like as you said, oh hey, let's just take all of the Star Citizen assets and throw it in CryEngine, because why not? So doing the same thing here, I really don't see so much of the issue. And again, I'm comparing Star Citizen to Dark Souls, so people are going to start getting on me for this. I'm seeing Star Citizen as one of those games where they just throw out all the goodies and bits at you. It's kind of like being thrown a toolbox. Yeah, you already know what you're getting. Sure, it has 250 pieces, and kind of ruins a little bit of the element of surprise at getting something. But I guess the real surprise is knowing that you use those 250 pieces to build something amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is a bit of a topic that I recently played. I don't know if you're familiar with the MMO, The Secret World.
Oh yes, I played it a little bit.
I played that really heavy when it first came out, and I remember there was a big issue there because there was a lot of just the typical adventure game things where you had to really figure things out. And there was always the issue of, what's to prevent somebody from just posting all the spoilers online and people reading them? And of course it happens. The world we live in nowadays, it's almost in a way a shame that information can't be controlled, although it shouldn't be, but still. But on the other hand, there's going to be those people who I just refused to look at anything that I thought would be giving me spoilers to what I didn't want to know. So I think it's just a matter of the people deciding where they want to go. But on the other side, I've already seen people tell me how my website has made the game better for them, even in this small bit we have. Because, for example, if you want to buy weapons off the Voyager Direct Store, there's no real stats on them. There's no information about what they really are. But
Right.
they can go on my item browser and see exactly what the current stats are on that item. And things like that, just giving people information to make informed decisions. And that's going to get even better as we get further along the road.
I will admit I'm kind of bad. I bought one of those multi-barreled blasters and threw it on the nose of my 350R just because I wanted to make it look like a warthog. I didn't care if it was good or not. I'm like, oh, it has multiple barrels. Yeah, sure, bought.
I don't think the 350 is exactly supposed to be a warthog. It's a little too pretty for that.
I am a huge fan of Fairchild's Warthog, and if I don't see a Warthog type plane or ship in Star Citizen, I'll just make one in 3D.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The 810 is a great aircraft, but if anything, it's in the Hornet's the Warthog, not the 350.
Well, they did say it was like the TIE fighter of the universe, but we'll find out when the game comes out. Did want to come back to the subject and address what you said, though, that it has helped the game. Star Citizen FM, hopefully when the game is out, now that I have footage, I can use game footage instead of that picture that I made. But sorry, not I made it. Faleron made that. But as the game comes out more, I'd like to start focusing on PvP setups, PvE setups. What this person did. Highlight the top 5 combat kills of the week or whatever. Blue 6. I don't know if Beyond the Horizon Radio has the same plan, or the romantics, just something to do to focus on, because I like the fighty part. I like, people fighting against each other. It's that man versus man element. And one thing I did is I pretty much squeaked like a little girl when I first saw your little thing. I'm like, oh my god, this is going to help so much. I don't have to tear through the XMLs myself, because I really hate doing that. So somebody else did it for me. So thank you, Agathor.
You're welcome. All that information is now at your fingertips.
So, but like I said, coming Dogfighter app, when we're building our ships in that, I think you're already going to be a big part of that. Everyone will be using the Stanton Space BArn to set up their ships, and I might be there to spotlight those ship setups. Maybe even bring you on again. We can talk about those setups.
I think that'd be cool. It is actually, I haven't really worked out in detail, but I do want to do some things on the website with maybe like there's going to be some method of voting on variants, and maybe display like the top 10 variants. And I would love to do like mini editorial things every now and then, like kind of like blog posts, like, hey, let's pull apart this number 1 build that people have and what makes it so effective and what doesn't. I think things like that have the ability to just grow into whatever they happen to naturally grow into, and it can be very interesting to see what happens.
Well, you'll have to remember to include Facebook integration as well as Twitter, since all the cool kids are using it nowadays.
Well, I guess that explains why I'm not cool.
Uh-oh.
No, I do have a Twitter account and a Facebook, and I just never use them.
No worries, man. So, a few more questions that I wanted to ask you before you go. More yourself focused. How did you initially come into Star Citizen?
Well, Star Citizen, so ironically, I came into it a little bit late. Not too late. I unfortunately did miss the initial Kickstarter. I just never heard of it when it first came out. And this is actually seems to be a recurring theme with Kickstarter projects that I miss. It drives me crazy because they don't bugle it loud enough, I guess. I don't hear about it initially. And so sometimes I find out after the train's already left the station. In my case, it was just a little ways into January, I guess, this year. And I managed to jump on board, and I managed to get in there just before they had made changes on the website, so hopefully CIG is not going to come and burn down my house, but I somehow managed to actually get some of the my original pledge package at like the original setup, as if it was still on Kickstarter. I managed to slip in before they had changed the website, so I managed to grab into that. But I mean, as soon as I saw that it was Chris Roberts doing it, I immediately flashed back, as like everyone does, back to I'm old enough to have been in PC gaming when PC gaming was brand new. And I remember playing Wing Commander so much, and I remember playing. I'm not a big fan of. Well, most of them not a big fan. I didn't really play the newer games he had done. Well, newer relatively, but I did play all the Wing Commander games and loved them so much. And I'm a huge flight sim fan in general. Originally, actually, early on in my life, I was in the U.S. Air Force. I didn't fly, but I wasn't a pilot, but I have flown. I love to play games like DCS, A10C, flight sims and like that, and I'm a huge sci-fi geek, so the combination of flight sim, space sim, sci-fi, Chris Roberts. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, like I said, I probably never will leave the game when it comes out.
Well, I think that's been the same for all of us, even though I'm a younger gentleman myself. His name stood out enough for me when I found it. Is there any sort of, hopes or dreams that you have for Star Citizen right now, other than, what you're trying to forge yourself?
Well, obviously everyone's going to have a different opinion on what the game's going to be, different idea of what they're hoping to get out of it, and no one's going to be 100% happy. But I really like when Chris talks about how immersive he wants to make the game. To me, the ideal, I see it as a simulator, essentially, especially when you start throwing things like the Oculus Rift in there. I mean, I want to see a game personally that just completely immerses you into it and makes it another world that you can live in, basically. I know there's a lot of people out there who just want it to be straight up, dogfighting ships, but I'm hoping for a more expansive, immersive world that I can literally just spend time in and just live there and make it part of my world.
Yeah, that's kind of I think the thing that everybody wants here, given the fact that there's a few other good space games out there, but none of them really hit that note that I think we're looking for now. I think some of us just want to jump in, fly, and forget about taxes, bills, and real life.
Exactly.
So one final question, what can we expect Agathorn to be doing when he finally is in the Star Citizen universe? I've had people on here say they're going to be pirates or mercenaries or whatever they decide when the game comes out. What do you see yourself doing?
That's a hard question to answer. On the surface, it's going to be something not piratey, just because in general I'm too good of a person. Even when I play games, I generally can't play the bad guy. And some games where I do play the bad guy just to experience the story, I almost feel like I'm having to work at it. So for me, it's going to mostly be. It's hard to say, really. I mean, I definitely want to try and do some skirting the law. I mean, for me, it's almost like living out of Star Wars fantasy. I want to probably do the smuggling thing if the smuggling is well done in the game. If it's really no different than regular merchant transportation, then it's probably not going to be that big of an allure. But if there's really good smuggling, I'm definitely going to be there for that. Some regular trading and I'll probably try and do some fighter escort at some point, although I probably just won't be very good at it. On the other side, I have some friends who I've convinced to join, and they want a crew. I want a crew on bigger ships, but they want to do more of the piracy thing. So I might have to have like one account I split off. Fortunately, I've spent enough money on this game I can easily do that. So I might split off an alter ego or something for that. I don't know, but generally, I think I want to be like right on the edge, a little smuggling, a little bit of transportation.
Well, I think that sounds. Oh, you still there?
Yep.
There we go. I think that sounds like quite a adamant goal. Different from I think my last few interviewees. They want to do the R, the pirates. But I
never really wanted to. I just don't like hurting other people. Like I hate being griefed, and the thought of doing that to somebody else, it just doesn't work for me.
Oh, we might not get along then. I don't like griefing in space. I played Eve, but there's been some good Dark Souls days. Well, Agathorn, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to stop by and chat on Star Citizen FM. It's been a pleasure having you, so if you want to say goodbye to everyone there, and then we can close this.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me, and everybody just check out the site. I really encourage people to check out the Phase 2 site. It's you have to click in the menus to get there because it's not officially launched yet, but that's where all the goodies are right now. That's where you have your real live game data and whatnot, and play around with it and post in the forums, send me PMs, let me know what you think, let me know what works, let me know what doesn't work. I don't want to make it, I'm trying to build a website that is what I would want to use, and I'm hoping other people feel the same way.
Do you have a URL you can direct the viewers to?
Hopefully we can put actually put a direct link in the videos when you're done, but it's basically Stanton, or HTTPS, because it is a secure site, Stanton Space BArn.com. And if you add /phase 2 at the end of that, you can go straight to the phase 2 side.
Well, there you guys go. So if you'd like to check that out, and I encourage you that you do, check out Agathorn's work. As we've been talking about, he's doing an amazing job, and I'd like to see this tool becoming the standard for Star Citizen in the future. Again, I'd like to thank you all for joining Star Citizen FM. If you've enjoyed this video, you can subscribe by clicking the little tiny hawk on the lower left-hand corner, and please do leave your likes and comments. It is much appreciated. I will see you guys all next time on Star Citizen FM. This is Dr. Hawk and Agathorn signing off. You all take care and fly safe.